What is the worst advice given to you by a doctor? I was told by one doctor that the depression I was suffering from at the time was in actuality a spiritual crisis, and my body's way of telling me I missed having God in my life. I nearly burst out laughing in his face. He also chastised my girlfriend at the time for being amoral because we were sexually active. A real class individual, that fellow. Needless to say, I never saw that particular doctor again. Student doctor. I go in because I'm diabetic and am having trouble keeping my levels down. No tests, nothing. She tells me she's taking me off the meds because I can control this with diet and exercise. I've already been trying, but she won't listen. 6 months later, I'm in the hospital with sugar levels over 900. The ER doctor does some simple tests and determines I am not type 2, but type 1, and my body is no longer producing insulin. I was on ICU for 3 days. I was on the verge of going into a coma. Went through some tough times and began self-harming. Current antidepressants weren't working. Went to doctor for help, and he told me to keep cutting myself if I felt it was helping. I didn't want to cut myself. I was in desperate need of help, and he let me down. 2 weeks later, I snapped and ran away from life. I've still no idea why he didn't just increase my medication. He told you to keep cutting? Like I should not be in the medical field. What the fuck? I hope you're feeling better now. Just take some Gaviscon. No testing, no referrals to a gastroenterologist, nothing. Found a new doctor. Turns out I have Crohn's disease. Also, saw a temporary doctor for cystitis, and she prescribed some antibiotics as it wasn't going away on its own. Are you sure? Said the pharmacist. I think I'll give her a call and check. These aren't supposed to be mixed with your immunosuppressants. The doctor assured them that it would be fine. It was not. I survived though. Was lectured loudly for about 5 minutes by my GP about drug seeking when I asked her not to prescribe me opiate painkillers for a moderate shoulder issue I had come in for. She then told me they needed over $200 in blood tests and to stop by the little blood test center thing in the office on my way out to have the draw done. I mentioned that I just came in because my shoulder pain had lasted too long and become a little more than I thought was normal/acceptable. She left the exam room without saying a word and didn't come back. So I left and did the same. After I had my son, I went to my GP and broke down in tears, saying that I was having flashbacks from his birth and panic attacks, that I wasn't coping and I was thinking about suicide. Her response? You should feel lucky that you have a healthy baby. Some women don't. You'll get over it. Well, I didn't, and it took me another year to finally get help. I still suffer with depression and anxiety now, nearly 8 years on, although I am doing much better these days. It took me a lot to go and ask for help, and she just confirmed in my head that I was a shitty person. Saying that you can't have problems because people have it worse is like saying that you can't have successes because people have it better. I was having anxiety attacks, but I thought it was stomach issues at the time causing chest pains. I was advised to see a doctor as a follow-up from an ER visit. I was looking for a new doctor and went to this one place. I wait 2.5 hours in a crowded waiting room, kids screaming. I see this doctor as she waddle in, looks at me, and we talk. Her advice? Take Tums. Forever. I asked if there was any other avenue to take, or at least testing, and she said no. Just take Tums. Forever. She must have stock in their parent company. Another doctor told me that lifting weights was bad for me and my heart. He said to strictly stick to cardio, and he is a cardiologist. It's not broken. Sprains are very painful. My arm was broken. Oral pain is very hard to deal with. It was dry socket after wisdom tooth extraction. It's just a sprain. My foot was broken. I used to be heavy. I got these at varying times. If you lost weight, your periods would be lighter and the cramps would go away. Your asthma will clear up if you lose weight. Your acne will go away if you lose weight. Your allergies won't be as bad if you lose weight. Guess what? I'm at the skinny end of the BMI scale, and the only thing that helped with any of those problems was medication. Went to a new psychiatrist after switching jobs to get my SSRI meds updated and, or possible, try something new. I should have known what I was going to get when her specialties mentioned addiction specialist. She was the only available doc, otherwise I would have picked another. While doing our getting to know you chat, she asked if I drank. I do enjoy a beer now and then, and I do drink to get drunk, maybe once a month if I go to a club/bar/party. But it is nowhere near an issue for me. As soon as I mentioned my casual drinking, the conversation switched completely to getting me into rehab, meetings, and addressing my drinking problem. We didn't even get to talking about the anxiety issues that brought me in there. See, my brother is a non-functioning alcoholic, and I know firsthand what problem drinking looks like. And that's not me even by a long shot. I politely told her that was not my issue, left her office, and promptly found a new psych who actually helped me find the right meds for my anxiety. It's the old saying, If you're a hammer, every problem looks like a nail. If take this pill is advice, then the worst advice I got was when I was 13. I have dope-responsive dystonia, neurological disorder, Parkinsonian-type symptoms that were getting worse and worse, nearly wheelchair-bound. All I need is a little bit of L-Dopa every day, and I'm 100% fine. They were already treating my cousin this way with perfect success, but my parents couldn't get the doctor to prescribe L-Dopa. Instead, they gave me Haldol, an antipsychotic usually given to schizophrenics. It took what little dopamine I was producing out of my system and made me so much worse. It was horrible, and being 13 had no idea what was going on. Then withdrawal symptoms when mom made me stop taking it. Just after that, I finally got my dopamine pills and have been fine ever since, but what a traumatic ride. That the pain in my hip was because I was getting older. After many doctor trips, finally getting referred to an ortho, and turns out I had a hairline fracture. By the time it was found, it was pretty much healed. We're having trouble at work reading expiration dates on vaccine vials. Went to eye doctor, and his exam was him handing me a bottle of eye drops and had me read the expiration date. I did. He said okay then and looked at me like I was an idiot. It must be a bad sprain. Here, have some crutches. When it is healed, make sure to do lots of exercise to re-strengthen it. For months later, well, it wasn't a sprain, it's a meniscus injury, bucket handle tear. Make sure to get on that NHS waiting list while you can't walk there, mate. No cartilage by the time I'm 40 sounds great. My aunt died of pancreatitis at 52 years old, and my mom died of pancreatic cancer at 44. About a year after my mom passed away, I asked the doctor if there were any tests or scans I could start having done to catch anything early should a problem arise. I was told, well, we all have to die of something. Thanks, doc. A little bit late to this, but here goes. I had a bump on the side of my head that would bleed whenever I scratched it. It kept getting bigger and more sensitive. I went to my campus doctor. I get it checked out because I was leaving for Peru in a week to go on vacation. The doctor told me the bump was nothing and would go away. Fast forward to me in Peru. We are out in the desert, hours away from Lima, where we were staying, when the bump starts bleeding after I hit it. It doesn't stop as we drive 1.5 hours to the hospital in Lima. Once there, the doctor informed me it was actually a tumor, and I had emergency surgery to remove it. No one at the hospital spoke English, and I do not speak Spanish. We captured the whole operation on GoPro, if anyone's interested, haha. TLDR, Canadian medical care was shit, had to go to third world doctor to get treated. I went to the doctor sick as all fuck, swollen lymph nodes, weak as shit, and sore throat. He barely looks at me and sends me home with antibiotics. I wake up the next day, go to the bathroom, and look at myself in the mirror, and I'm covered in rashes. So we call the doctor, and he said something along the lines of, derp, immediately stop taking the antibiotics and go get an enzyme test done, maybe it's mono. So we get the test done, and yup, definitely mono. Thankfully, once I stopped the meds, the rashes went away the next day, but seriously, it was one of the more horrifying experiences ever. Edit. Okay, everyone calm down. Apparently this is completely normal. That has nothing to do with bad advice. The physician was going off of empirical data and gave you a dosing regimen, probably some penicillin derivative because of the rash. You were one of the lucky 10% to have rash from penicillin. My wife was sick for almost a week with a fever before finally going to the doctor. I mean, like bedridden sick. She thought she had the flu and it would go away on its own, but it didn't. I dropped her at the doctor's office on the way to a meeting. By the time I had gotten back, they had given her a flu shot and misdiagnosed it as the flu. Finally, they actually did some tests and figured out she had pneumonia. You aren't even supposed to get a flu shot if you have a cold, let alone pneumonia. I asked the doctor what he was thinking, giving someone that was so sick a flu shot. He did not have an answer. Just an FYI, it's not dangerous to get the flu shot if you're already sick. It's just not as effective because your immune system is distracted by your illness. Not harmful, just not really helpful either. That I would lose weight if I stuck to my low-fat, high-carb diet. I'm insulin resistant. It's actually the worst way I could eat. Spent a decade doing nothing but gaining weight, and he insisted it's because I was weak or cheating. I now eat nonstop fat, protein, and very little carb. Much healthier and much thinner. Same douche refused to send me for testing when I lost sensation at odd places on my body. Next DR sent me for an MRI. Turns out I have MS. Also, same douche told me my kid was faking stomach pain to get out of school. Turned out to be a fecal impaction. He's now retired. Yay! This probably ISS going to be seen, but I will put it anyway. We found out my brother has a nut allergy when he was about 12 when he ate a chocolate sweet which contained a Brazil nut, and he went into anaphylactic shock and almost died. The doctor recommended to my mom to find out what nut it is by telling her to grate some different nuts into his sandwiches without him realizing, presumably like a placebo, and see which ones he reacts to. Obviously, on the basis that this could kill him, my mom did not do this, and she spoke to another doctor in the hospital who was very angry and confused as to why this was suggested, and he said he would write to the doctor that recommended it. When I was a teen, my doctor told my mother everything I was experiencing was in my head. 2 years passed before I was diagnosed with hypothyroidism. It took a thyroid storm to get a diagnosis when all they had to do was check my blood levels. I went to the hospital after my heart rate reached 150 just from standing up. Obligatory, not a doctor, but a medical secretary. Tried booking an appointment. Was told under no situation could I have an appointment unless I had a phone consultation first to make sure I don't swine flu and come in and infect the place. Told them I definitely didn't have swine flu. Was told that I'm not a doctor and therefore couldn't be sure. I caved and had my phone consultation. Doctor took 5 seconds before telling me to get to the GP office ASAP. My symptoms? Lump on my testicle. TLDR. Medical secretary made me get checked for swine flu before getting a lump on my bollock checked. While going through a period of time where I was barely eating and sleeping, and it ended up being pretty severe depression. Instead of recommending me to a psychiatrist and antidepressants, he told me to find my faith in Jesus Christ. Not a knock on religion here, but that wasn't something I was expecting to hear from my doctor. Found a new one, got a psychiatrist and antidepressants, and put that period of my life behind me. Go back to school and become a counselor. Words from an orthopedic surgeon after reviewing my imaging and history due to a serious back injury. He told me this because I was upset that I could no longer work in the profession that I had chosen and paid a lot of money and time to get trained in. Broke my ankle this January while ice skating. The guy at the emergency post said, "You shouldn't bend your ankle like that, it's only going to make it worse." He thought I had just sprained it and that I was trying to reduce the pain by beating it weirdly to the side. Luckily, my trainer is a doctor, so he saw it was broken and sent me to a hospital. To be honest, I wasn't really surprised the emergency guy didn't know shit about broken ankles, since he gave his equipment nicknames and called it his buddies. You can get another opinion, but I really feel like it would be a waste of your time. With the advancements in technology, it really levels the playing field to the point where doing more of these surgeries doesn't really make you better at it. Neurotologist discussing a craniotomy to remove a brain tumor. Bonus. He misdiagnosed the tumor type. I posted about this before, but for the last year I've had irregular bleeding every 2 weeks, soaking through a heavy pad and tampon every hour. Not normal for me, and debilitating cramps, weird and seriously uncomfortable urinary problems. Went to the doctor like 3 separate times for tests, only for her to send me home. Nothing wrong with me, take birth control. Tried it, it made me suicidal within a week. All symptoms just get worse. The last time I went to see her, it was because I was pissing blood and felt like I had a UTI. Had tests, no UTI, but still no answers. Sent home. I decided to see a different doctor and found out within a week I have cysts all over my ovaries. Now, not much you could do about these, but at least I feel less crazy now. The last doctor made me feel like I was making a big deal out of normal period symptoms, which isn't the case. I went in for periodic intense pains in my ribcage area, specifically on the right side. I told the doctor I thought it was my gallbladder since my mom just had gallstones about 6 months prior and the location was very similar. He said, "You're experiencing sympathy pain. Your mom had it, now you think you have it." Nothing more than that. For months later, I was in the ER and needed an emergency gallbladder removal surgery. I had 35 stones. I suffered from depression in high school, and my grades were pretty bad because of it. My parents sent me to a therapist to see if he could help me. After listening to me for an hour, his suggestion was that my parents pay me to get better grades. Because $50 for an A is totally going to fix that hole, I hate myself and see no value in my current or future existence thing. Oh, this reminds me of mine. I fell down really hard on cement. I sprained my ankle, and that night discovered I couldn't stop bleeding. It was like a heavy flow day, but it had lasted for over 13 hours. I was getting woozy and feeling anemic. I finally went to the hospital where they made me take a pregnancy test, despite being a virgin at the time, and told me it was my period. It wasn't, and charged me $3,000 for the privilege. Mind you, this hospital was notorious for being terrible. I knew someone who went in with a broken hand and ended up getting treated for some virus because they didn't double-check charts. Edit. Yes, folks, I am aware why they did the pregnancy test. I'm not mad about that, but the fact that they did literally nothing else beyond making me pee in a cup. Please consider subscribing if you enjoyed. Love.